Okay, so this video is just going to review a portion of the supporting details for groundwork for better reading. Some of this we've already talked about in class, so a little bit will be review, but hopefully it'll help you with understanding the chapter a little bit better. So remember that at the end of the chapter we talked about two ways of basically taking a paragraph and breaking it down. One way is outlining, and the other way is called mapping in this book. We called it clustering in ESL 21. But basically what we do with outlining is we take the main idea and the supporting details and we list them in a way where it makes them easy to understand. The main idea in this one is going to be clapping serves a number of purposes. So when we're making an outline of it, we're going to use numbers for the major supporting details, and then under the major supporting details we're going to be giving the minor supporting details. In this one, the minor supporting details are all examples. Our first major support starts with the word first, and we have to show encouragement. Notice that we're not writing down the whole sentence, we're just writing down a portion of the sentence and also just a portion of the example. We don't want to write down the whole example. So for the second one, the second major detail, with the words a second, and what we'll write down is just the out of joy or excitement. And then the example is clapping in time to the music. What about the third major detail? What word does that start with? That one, and we're going to write down there as a symbol of respect and just the example. We have a fourth major detail, and that starts with the word last of all. Keep in mind that last of all is not going to be the conclusion, it's going to be a detail. We would write down to show appreciation. It's given there as well. Okay. Some of the tips that the book gives for outlining, tips are suggestions on how to figure out. The first tip that it says is to look for what we call list words. And remember that list words in general are words that include a plural word there that tell you what the list is going to be. So in the first one here, several kinds of, that paragraph will tell you many kinds of something. Various causes will tell you 3 causes. A few reasons will give you several reasons. Not in that sentence, but later on in the paragraph. So here's some examples from the paragraph we just saw. We see a number of purposes. Purposes is the same as reasons, so it's going to give all of those. In this one, we read this one as well. Here we have certain basic fears, so the paragraph is going to give us a list of fears. So that tells us the main idea. The second tip is to look for signal words, which are called addition words, and these ones tell us the major details. So some of the common addition words are these ones, and we noticed in the paragraph that we looked at that all of them started with one of these words. One of the things to get into a habit to in this book is that as you're reading a paragraph, highlight or circle those addition words, because it'll help you quickly understand the organization of so some examples here from the paragraph that we already looked at is this one thing. The second one is another. Is a third right there. Okay, so these ones are just signaling what you need to know. The major supporting details. This is the one we looked at earlier in this video. So we started off with first of all. The second one was a second. The third one was another. The last one was last of all. One thing to keep in mind is there's a couple of these words like another and also and next or moreover and furthermore. those are words that can only be used in the middle of the paragraph because what they mean is one more. So if you don't have one before it, it doesn't make sense. So moving on, the last thing we want to think about is that when you're making an outline, you want to make sure that your outline, that each level is at a different distance from the margin. So remember, the margin is that line on the side of your paper. On the left-hand side of your paper, there's a long, normally red line. That's the margin. So when we're making our outline, the main idea is touching the margin, but then the major supporting details are a little bit away from the margin, and then the minor supporting details are even further away from the margin. But if we keep those ones organized and in the same order, when we come back and look at it later, it's just a lot easier for us to understand. So this is a good note-taking tip for you. So here we see all of the major supporting details are at the same, and then similarly all of the minor supporting details are at the same. So another way of organizing your thoughts or the notes on a paragraph is what we call a map. So a map is a diagram that uses boxes or circle, but again, it's showing the relationship between these different. So again, here we have a paragraph. The main idea is going to be this one. In our busy lives, there are different steps that we take to save time. So the main idea is going to go up at the top in the longest and the biggest box. We can see also in this one, we have the words different steps. So those are our addition words there. At the next level down, we're going to include the major supporting details. In this one, again, we can identify the major supporting details just by finding those addition words. So the first one uses the word first, right? And we're going to use that in this case, we're going to put that into the circle at the next level. And again, we don't write down the whole sentence. So the next major supporting detail is introduced. This is the minor supporting details. I'm sorry, I'm skipping ahead. So for the minor supporting details, we draw another set of lines and we go down and include them there. But again, we're not writing out the whole of it. We'll notice that in this one, again, our minor supporting details are examples. The word for instance tells us examples. In this one, for the second major support, we have the word also is our addition word, and then we have the word for example telling us what the examples are. So we include that information there. Okay, and then the last one is introduced with the word finally, right? Finally, we may simply rush, and we include that as a major supporting detail. And then we have the example afterwards. You'll notice that in this last example, it doesn't use the word for example or for instance. So sometimes we can introduce an example without using a transition. So again, remember that addition words are going to help us to find the major supporting details. And whenever we say for example or for instance, it's going to be minor supporting details. Okay, so just as a quick review of this chapter, the things that we covered here are that supporting details are going along with the main ideas. They provide the support or the explanation for the main ideas. We can use list and addition words that can help us find the major and minor supporting details. Really remember that the list words is going to tell us the main idea, and the addition words is going to tell us the major support. And we can also use outlining and mapping as a way of taking notes on things that we have read. Whichever one that you find more useful and easiest to understand is the one that you should choose to use. All right, good stuff. Do the online activities for this, and we'll talk about it more in class. Take care. Bye.